Welcome back again to the lecture of user interface in the web based decision support system course, and we are continuing after that short break. And if you look at the screen, we wanted to talk about the usability principles for the web based DSS. Okay. And the two major aspects that we are going to discuss today is layout and content awareness. So, let us first talk about the layout part of it. So, what is the rule of thumb? What is it? So, the rule is this: the interface should be a series of areas on the screen that are used consistently for different purposes. This is the rule of thumb. So, the interface, the user interface or the web based interface, it should be a series of areas on the screen. Okay. So, bunch of series of the areas on the screen that are used consistently. The usage is consistent for different purposes. The areas are demarcated and designated for different purposes. So, like examples. So, top area for commands and navigation. That is one thing. Middle area for information input or output, and bottom area for status information. So, this is an example. So, if you take a screen, then we are talking about the top, middle and bottom, the top, middle, bottom. And once you decide this is what it is going to do, then it has to be consistent throughout the entire aspect of the or design of the system. Then the second aspect we need to discuss today is content awareness. Okay, content awareness. So, the guiding rule, the guiding principle here is that users should always be aware, of where they are in the system, and what information is being displayed. So, example, what stage of decision making, what information is shown about what aspect of the decision, etc. So, these are all parts of the usability aspect of the content awareness. The layout and content awareness are two aspects of the web based decision support system. And if you remember these rules, then we implement these rules as part of the HTML system that we built. Now, let us look into the second one, which is the aesthetics and user experience. Now, we talk about two things which are the aesthetics and user experience. So, now let us take aesthetics. So, the aesthetics, the major rule is the interfaces should be functional and inviting. inviting to the decision maker, the decision makers, through careful use or usage of white space, colors and fonts. Okay. So, three major aspects. So, it should be functional. Functional means it should support the function of decision making and should be inviting. The user should feel invited to use this one. So, the decision maker, it should be functional to the decision maker and should be inviting to the decision maker. And how do you make that happen? By carefully manipulating or carefully employing the white space, colors and fonts. So, there is some aspects. Keep in mind, you always need to keep these following things in mind. One is that there is often a trade-off between including enough white space, want to include enough white space to make the interface look more pleasing, to make the interface look more pleasing without losing much space, so that important information doesn't fit the screen. The idea is this: you have to strike a balance. You have to find a trade-off between including too much of white space to make the interface look more pleasing without losing so much space so that important information cannot be fit on the screen. So, you have to fit the important information on the screen, but also at the time you should not. So, you should not compromise too much of white space and you should not overdo the white space so that important information does not fit the screen. So, it is a vice versa. You have to strike a balance. So, this is like find that balance. That is the main aspect of this, main rule of this. First one. Second one is user experience. We mentioned about this quite a lot. Keep in mind. There are other rules for this, we already discussed that, but there is some keep in mind for you in this one. The first thing to keep in mind is, although ease of use and ease of learning often lead to similar design decisions, there exist trade-offs between the two. Even though many times the ease of use and ease of learning, these two aspects, they are two different things, sometimes or often they lead to similar design decisions, but there are trade-offs between the two. Okay. The design decision, there could be trade-off between. So, what are the trade-offs? What are those trade-offs? So, the number one aspect you need to understand is novice users or infrequent users. Novice users or infrequent users of software will prefer ease of learning. So, ease of learning is more preferred by novice or infrequent users. Frequent or expert users will prefer ease of use. This is the major thing that you need to keep in your mind. If you are talking about ease of learning, if you are focusing more on ease of learning, then you are catering to the novice or infrequent user. If you are talking about ease of use, then you are catering to the frequent or expert user. So, that is the aspect that you need to decide. These are the things that you need to keep in mind when you are designing the user experience in that mind, right. Even though the design may look the same, but in the net effect, the user group that you are catering, whether it is infrequent novice user or expert frequent user, that the system behaves differently as part of it. Now, in the usability principles, the last two aspects of it, the consistency and minimal user effort. Now, let us talk about consistency. So, consistency. So, the rule or guideline for us in this regard is consistency in interface design. Enables users to predict what will happen before they perform a function. It is like, so that means do not throw any surprises. So, the consistency allows the user or the decision maker to predict what will happen before they perform a function, before they click something what will happen, before they go through what will happen. So, very critical for ease of learning, ease of use and aesthetics. So, this one, the consistency is very critical in these three aspects. And then the last part of today's discussion is the minimal user effort. So, there is only one rule to this, very simple rule. The interface should be simple to use. It should be simple to use. So, keep in mind, okay, most decision makers like to have no more than 3 mouse clicks from the starting menu until user requested work is performed. So, what is the user requested work? The decision. Okay. So, most of these big decision makers prefer maximum of 3 mouse clicks, click, click and click. Within that time period, they would like the thing to be completed. Okay. So, when you are designing it, try to see whether you can actually finish everything within 3 mouse clicks. Okay. So, that is because that is from the start of the start menu till the third mouse click. After you click the third mouse click, you would ideally like to see the results. That is how these top decision makers actually work as part of the system. So, we just seen the 3 major usability principles, the layout and the content awareness. Layout is more about how to use the screen area and how do you consistently do it, and how do you talk about the content awareness, at where are you and what are you seeing at this point. we talked about aesthetics and we talked about the user experience. Aesthetics, it is will be functional and inviting to the user. We talked about that. And trade off between white space and important information and vice versa, we discussed that. And we also talked about ease of use and ease of learning. What's the difference between them, novice users versus expert users. And then the consistency, what will happen, don't throw any surprises kind of a thing. And then the minimal user effort and 3 clicks rule, whatever. So, with that, today's topic before the HTML design. Now, we get into the HTML aspect of the system and how to use HTML forms to design this stuff. That is what we will do today. But after the next lecture, that is what we will be doing. But for when you are designing this, keep all these rules in your mind, so that we can move forward without or we can actually design good web-based decision support systems. Thank you for your patient hearing, and I will see you soon in the next class on the HTML user interface design. Thank you.